Welcome everybody to Forza Horizon 5, and today we're taking a look at the 2022 Ferrari 296 GTB. Now, production of this started in 2021, and it is a plug-in hybrid, so kind of like the Ferrari had some electric power assistance to the engine. It wasn't a plug-in hybrid, whereas this has that electrical assistance but also is a plug-in hybrid as well, so it can run only on the electric motor for apparently around 16 miles, which isn't a great amount, but you know, if you're going around a city that has low emission zones or anything like that, put it in electric mode and you don't have to pay a dime. So the GTB in this name stands for Gran Turismo Berlinetta. This is a coupe version, but there is also a convertible version, and then there is also a Assetto Fiorano, I think it's called, or something along those lines. Assetto Fiorano, which is basically the track version of this car. Track focus, obviously, it's not only made for the track, but it is more track focus than this version is. But still, this is hardly a slouch in terms of its power, acceleration, or performance overall. And overall, I do like the look of this car. I think it looks better than the Roma, to be honest, which has been, festooned with accolades and all of that, but I much prefer the look of this car. It's got the kind of somewhat minimalism to it, but there's also enough detail there to to enjoy, whereas the Roma is far too stripped back to really have anything noteworthy that stands out about it. It's got a decent amount of practicality in this, not a huge amount, but it's still a decent amount of boot space there, and to be honest, I think it looks like it's got more boot space than the Roma, which tries to pretend to be a GT, practical GT car, but it really isn't. So yeah, this car on the whole feels a lot more honest because it knows it's a two-seater sports car, or even supercar, or even hypercar, quite frankly, given the amount of power it's got. So yeah, it's a lot more honest than the Roma is, and comes across a lot better as a result of that. So yeah, no back seats, no attempts at back seats, no rear boot or anything like that. Front boot, and then the rear is taken up by all the engine and other components. So 818 horsepower, 663 pounds-feet of torque from its 3-litre twin turbocharged V6 plus electric motor that is powered by 7.45 kilowatt-hour of a battery. So yeah, the engine itself produces around 654 horsepower, and then the motor on top of that is about 164 horsepower. So that's a lot of power, and the electric motor there is going to fill in the gaps where the engine or the turbochargers are lacking. It's because the electric motor is going to be there all of the time. It's electric motors never have any lag or anything like that, which is one big bonus with electric cars. But yeah, with this, it's just going to fill in the gaps and provide that extra torque and extra horsepower as well. So and even though it does have basically two motors in this car, it still only weighs 3,472 pounds, which is not all that much when you consider it's not the smallest of cars, and you've also got those two motors on board as well. But yeah, it's rear-wheel drive, so you've got no all-wheel drive nonsense to deal with, and it's got an 8-speed dual-clutch transmission as well. So yeah, it flies through those gears pretty nicely to keep the power always there, quite frankly. So let's get onto the open road and see what this car can do. Right, so here we are once again at the drag strip, so let's see what this car can do in terms of straight line speed before we hit the speed camera, and then we'll get it around the track. So it's pretty formidable as you might expect given all of that power and torque, and despite going for the rear wheels only, it's got near flawless launch. And there you see the 8-speed dual clutch gearbox there flying through the gears, and nearly 165 miles an hour there. So yeah, one thing that's remarkable about this car is, despite being nearly a litre smaller in terms of its engine and having 2 less cylinders, that it has, even without the electric motor and battery, more horsepower than the Ferrari Roma does, which just goes to show how efficient and how well engineered this V6 really is, which is really rather quite remarkable. And I personally find this V6 to sound even better than the V8 in that Roma. So that's not something I expected to say about a V6 versus a V8. But yeah, top of the S1 class, pretty much, which is the opposite to the Roma, which is pretty much down near the bottom. So not got perfect weight distribution. It's 41% front, 59% rear, but still that's decent enough, especially given its layout overall. And they're the stats, which as you can see are absolutely spectacular. Top speed, handling, acceleration, launch and braking are all excellent. I have no qualms with either of those. And as you saw there on the drag strip, the acceleration is no mean feat whatsoever. It got up to 7th gear extremely quickly, and 165 before we hit the speed camera is easily one of the fastest we've had in that regard. So yeah, let's, as per usual, listen to the car first, and then we'll talk about it some more. So yeah, really nice sounding engine I find, which is nice to, you know, quite frankly hear, because obviously engines are going to be getting smaller and smaller and more reliant on turbocharging and electric power and the like. So yeah, for Ferrari to be getting a 3 litre V6 with 2 turbochargers on it, sounding as good as this, is really rather quite remarkable. And yeah, it sounds a lot better than the Roma as far as I'm concerned, which isn't an awful sounding engine by any means, but yeah, this sounds a lot better. And it also packs more of a punch. 0 to 60 in only 2.8 seconds, 0 to 100 in 5.786 seconds, and it will to a top speed of 223 miles an hour, which is yeah, really rather quite remarkable. And yeah, handling wise, you really wouldn't think you have more than 800 horsepower in this car, because it just handles it. It really does not get a foot wrong, quite frankly. It's really rather nicely balanced. Obviously you will get a little bit of a step out due to the amount of power it's got, but it's barely noticeable most of the time. And yeah, if you're sensible and know what you're doing and controlled and all that, then you really are going to get the best out of this car, which is yeah, easily one of my favourite modern supercars, hypercars out there as far as I'm concerned. It's yeah, just really well sorted. One thing that does worry me though is now we have a Ferrari, which is supposed to be, you know, more of the middle of the range. You know, it's not supposed to be the top of the line car that has more than 800 horsepower, which is a huge amount of power. You know, you'd have to be mad to be, quite frankly, thinking that any car after this has to have even more power. But that's quite frankly the way these things are going to head until they ultimately plateau and can't get any more out of ever increasingly smaller engines, because yeah, no doubt we're going to see another Ferrari at some point have 850, 900, 950, 1000 horsepower, something like that. But sooner or later it's going to get to the point where that's not going to happen, and I feel like a lot of manufacturers are pushing it so far that people are either going to get bored or nothing's going to be advancing anywhere at all. So yeah, I feel personally that the likes of Ferrari and the like should start stripping back, going back to basics and the like, but they'll never do that. Just a bit of a shame. But still, this is part of the Italian Exotics car pack. Well worth getting, as yeah, hopefully I've proved with the previous reviews of the cars in the car pack. Don't think I'm going to review the Lamborghini racing car, but I'll decide on that in the future. But regardless, the car pack is well worth getting. It's not all that much money, and you do get at the end of the day 7 brand new cars to the Forza series. And yeah, this is probably my favourite of the 7, but I've yet to decide. But nonetheless, thank you for watching, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye.